Well, we're so excited to announce progress is happening here on the farm.
We're turning trees into lumber, salvaging every bit of wood we can, and starting to get rid of junk. Praise the Lord for that. So when we first came down here, it was July 29th and it was hot. So we wanted to put the RV in the shade and the solar panels in the sun. A little bit tricky to do that, but we found a good spot back there where the solar panels were actually on the north side of a set of trees and the camper was right in the middle of the trees, and it worked really well. But as fall approaches, the sun begins to come down in the azimuth, and so those trees began to shade these panels, and shade has a significant effect on the panels. So we had to move them out to the sun, and just like that, we also had to move the RV out of the shade because at this point we wanted sun because it's October and it's starting to get a little chilly. So RV got back in the sun, solar panels back in the sun, we're back up and running.
You may recall from our earlier videos, when we first moved in, the very first project we had to do was create a driveway. Well, we had to create the driveway between trees because there were so much timber here. But now that it's cleared and it's ready for building, the last project the excavator did for us was to expand the driveway. So you can recall back to what it was initially. This area here was a little bit more of a narrow teardrop shape, just enough we could get the big trucks in and out. But right before he left, this side over here, we actually brought it out another 15 to 20 feet. We expanded the entire driveway so that one side equals about 15 feet, which gives lots of room for parking, driving trailers, whatever needs to come through here shouldn't be a problem anymore. And I'm thrilled with the way this all turned out.
We had to literally clear a path. I took the chainsawed a path, cut down 2 huge trees, moved a whole bunch of tin, moved a bunch of tires. We had to move all this glass, sliding glass doors, glass windows. So I'm collecting all the steel over in this pile here, and then all the trash is going into a can, and I'm probably gonna have to get a dumpster because there's plenty of it. But sorting, sifting.
Chair looks useful.
Well, I can sit on it and it doesn't collapse. That's pretty good, right, Rosa? So here we are in the structure that used to be a barn. It's about 40 feet by 60 feet. It is chock full of junk, and I've started 2 fires. One I started about a week ago and spent about a day here just clearing out an area, and there's just tons of old furniture in here, wooden furniture that's rotten and broken and beat up. So best way to get rid of it is burn it in fire. Well, we're about halfway through the center section pit, I guess I would call it, trying to get access to both sides of these wood piles so we can take a look at them. But I am absolutely flabbergasted at how this much junk could just be piled up over the years. And it is junk. There is not a single thing useful that I've found so far. And I've gone through a lot of stuff. So, kind of sad, but that's reality. The tire iron. It's not broken, it's not cracked. It is the one useful item in this entire place. And maybe some drain tile. Well, there you go. After 3 hours of digging, I found something that somebody at some point could possibly use.
So while the excavator was here, this area behind me, he actually dumped some rock in to help control the erosion. Unfortunately, he didn't do very much, and the first big rainstorm we had started washing the soil away pretty quickly. So we recruited Ruth to help us out. We have a new driver. One of the great advantages of living on a farm with a decent driveway and lots of chores to do is that your kids learn to drive really young. So this is our 10-year-old, and she's been helping me with this project of moving rock by hand to control erosion here in this little gully. And she's become quite proficient at driving in just a couple of days, which means I'm not having to go back and forth, and I can use my time in better ways. It's looking good, Ruth. And by the way, these are more of those flagstones that we are recycling from the piles of junk and rock and whatnot scattered around the property. So I'm just loving the way this is all turning out. You having fun?
Yeah.
She's getting paid. That's why she's having fun. Another reuse project we managed to do was with a pile of the stone. When we first came out here and took a video, I showed you that we had a couple of piles of just different kinds of rock and flagstone and concrete and such. Well, one of those piles wound up having a whole lot more rock in it than we ever expected. So when they dug our pond, the excavator was able to use one pile to create this overflow section. That's just for an emergency overflow of the pond. That way we didn't have to put an overflow pipe in it. That allows the pond to actually come up higher, which we like. But this rock went an incredibly long way to fill this in, and that prevents erosion. It just kind of supports the bank a little bit, and it looks really nice. I like the way that turned out. So we may put a bridge here or something to cross over to the main part of the levee, but I am just thrilled to death with how that worked out.
Well, Danielle and I are working hard right now. She's on the other side of the log pile, and I'm on the west side of the log pile, trying to get this lumber milled. She's done a great thing for me. We're trying to build that shed row in the back, and she put together this double-sided cut sheet, and it tells me if I've got an oak tree, I make these cuts. If I've got yellow poplar, I make these cuts. But when I cut this wood up, I get it loaded in the truck here. And I've got 2x10s, 2x6s, 2x4s. I've even got these little 1 inch by 1 inch, because these are what separate the wood on the drying racks so that there's good airflow and they dry. So whenever I have scrap pieces at the end, I cut those. And I basically load it up until it squats down quite a bit, and I get that back on the drying racks. Then I cut up all the flitches into firewood. I throw that in the truck, and I stack it on a log pile over there. That's going to be our firewood. And I've got some kindling over there. But going through this wood pile is kind of tricky, because I do have a lot of hickories, but right now I only want to do oak and yellow poplar. And I don't want to do the hickories because, first of all, I don't need it now, but also the blades. The blades are back ordered for the lumber mill. The steel is hard to find in America right now, and these blades are one of a kind, and they're on back order probably 2 months out. So I have really got to milk these blades for all they're worth and keep them going as long as I possibly can. Some people have asked us what this is. It's called the Load Handler 3000. It's designed to hold up to 3,000 pounds. You've probably seen it in other videos where we did with sand, but you can pretty much do anything you want in it. And it's very convenient. Like with these logs, it's a lot easier to offload them from the truck bed level, so I can just crank the logs right to the back of the bed and the boys can unload. Go ahead, boys.
Got some nice firewood piling up there.
And we use every part of this log, including the sawdust. We take this and we use it in the compost pile. We use it for the bucket toilets. We use it for the horse stalls. So every 10 or so logs, we stop and we collect all the sawdust, and we divvy it up to the different locations wherever we need it. That's called cheating. Pretty easy. I love this little thing.
While Sean's busy on the lumber mill, I've been busy out salvaging whatever small items I can handle out of the timber. A few items that I'm working on listing on classifieds include things like bottles. You know, the original property owner here had his own still, so there are so many varieties of bottles out here. I don't know if he sold it, I don't know what the history was, but just tons and tons of bottles all over the property. And they come in different shapes, different sizes. So we're putting them out there for crafters. You know, it's a big thing nowadays for crafters to paint up a bottle and offer it for sale. So whatever we can do to keep this stuff out of trash cans, landfills, junkyards, whatever, I love reusing. So that helps. So I'm thrilled to report that the space behind me is now empty. You may remember from our previous videos, we had an old Chevy Bel Air. We think it was a 1963 model. And I listed it on Facebook Marketplace yesterday, and we got so many inquiries. It was incredible. So we probably let it go for a steal of a deal, but I literally gave it to the first person who made an offer and was willing to come and pick it up. So for $300, the car was the first piece of junk to actually generate some cash from the property. And it is not going to be put in a landfill. The guy was a classic car hobbyist who is going to use it for parts to rebuild some other cars he's working on. And it's off of my property, so I'm very happy about that. Turns out down here in our area, there's not a lot of trash service offered, so people use these barrels for burning a lot of their trash. So instead of sending them to a scrapyard, we actually placed them on classifieds, and we've been selling them off. Not a ton of money, but hey, it generates a few more pennies, keeps them out of a landfill, and we're able to, again, clear them from my property. Always a good thing. We've also had some cabinets that I really wasn't sure if they would sell. They were from the 50s probably, based on the color and style, and they were somewhat rusted through, but I put them on the classifieds to see if anybody was interested, and lo and behold, brought in a little cash, and some guy's gonna fix them up and hang them in his garage. So, you know, if you inherit a junkyard like we have, don't think that it's all junk. Don't hesitate to at least throw it out there on classifieds, because you really never know who might need something like that, and it might fit their desires just perfectly.
Well, we're pretty excited because this week the construction on Stall Alley starts. We get to take some of this lumber and actually put it up. And well, we're going to continue cleaning it up. I'm looking forward to it.
If you've already subscribed, thank you very much for your support. If not, be sure to subscribe, because things are speeding up here and a lot's starting to happen. Also, feel free to leave a comment. We read every comment and we love the encouragement. Thanks so much for watching.
Cheers.